Hey everyone, Christian Coley here. I'm back and I have an awesome guest with us today. You might recognize her, Nancy Kerrigan. How are you?
Hi, Christian. I'm good, thanks. Hey, everybody. Glad to sit down and talk to you. I'd rather see you in person, but
Yeah, I
you know,
know.
this is how we're all doing it now, I guess.
I know. It's like you're only I don't know, a few minutes away from me actually, and we're forced to do this through video call. But anyway,
Weird.
I appreciate that. Just a little background for everyone. I got to know Nancy when I worked in my past life in sports. I worked at Star Games, and so we actually represented Nancy Kerrigan and some of the things she was doing. We actually worked on some events together too. A little
Mhm.
tour called Halloween on Ice, which we had a
Super
blast
fun.
traveling around, and I got to get to know you even better. So that was awesome. And yeah, so I wanted to just kind of spend some time with you during this crazy time and kind of ask you a few questions that I think everyone would really be interested in, right? About leadership, about high performance, about how to get through some of these times. Uh, and I think the first question is, which is very relevant, is how did you deal with adversity and challenge when you were competing and later in life? I think a lot of people are going through some tough times right now.
Yeah.
And so what is your insight into that? How did you deal with it?
I just think being a logical person, I've always been logical, even as a kid. And I think in some ways that stopped me from having some fun, like teenage years, I missed out on fun, but it's because I had, I don't know, this vision, I guess. And then you can see that right now is tough, but far in the future, not like a week from now or 2 months from now, but we will not be in this situation right now. It's
Right.
not going to be like this forever. And so to be able to know that is very beneficial
Mhm.
because we can only do what we can do today, and one thing at a time. If you try and do, I mean, everyone wants to multitask, but if you're doing things at a high level and very well, you can still multitask, but can you do them all really well like that? You have to, I think, really focus sometimes and focus on what you're doing and take things one step at a time and be in the moment. I think it's really important to do that to have great results.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, failure, losing, challenge is all part of the journey, right? And so
Yeah,
it's
there's not an Olympian out there, whether they're the champion or just even part of it, that hasn't had some failures along the way. I mean, you have to be willing to fail to succeed and try something new and do something out of the box and just be willing to, I don't know, take a chance. But at the same time, in order to succeed, you need that. um, so you're dealing with adversity on the way, but how you get through something is always, it's gives you pride. And I think also the preparation is totally key to anything, because if you're prepared, you can deal with something, whether it's hard or not. And obviously things are out of your control, but what can you control? Are you prepared for that? Do
right.
the best you can to prepare.
It's actually especially relevant now too, just like how to stay motivated, how to keep going, even despite there's some
Yeah.
challenges. Uh, how do you stay motivated? Because right now in sports, there's like no competition either, right? So like the sports world has no
So
competition.
hard.
Also, some folks are unfortunately out of work or having to put a pause on that.
Yeah.
So how do they keep getting better? How do you stay motivated when there isn't kind of that competition to look forward to, or that job, or that meeting, or that presentation to prepare for?
Well, I guess trying to be creative, you got to think of something new. If for the athletes, I really don't know how these guys are doing it now. They were supposed to be getting ready for the Olympics. Like, this
Hmm.
is so hard and so challenging and frustrating, but they do know as of now it's set for next year. So there is a goal. There's something to look forward to. You may not be able to be in your typical atmosphere, but there are ways to stay in shape. um, we were just talking about one of the tennis players who isn't even able to play tennis, but she's visualizing all these different points and match points and who she's playing against. And if you can't physically actually play, you still can mentally try to prepare.
Right.
Look, how much is that going to help? Who knows, but it's not going to hurt, you know?
Right.
And you can have mental strength is huge in anything you do, to be able to work through something, to have that goal.
Would you
Is
advise
big
like
too, to have a goal, whether it's to get back into work and get a new job. My son right now, Matthew, he's out of work like everybody else. He's working on a TV show and some off-Broadway shows, and he just started some new company where he has about 30 people getting together, and they have 5, I think, different groups, and a writer or an actor or a producer, a whole group of people for each group, trying to create something new. It's never been done. They're like, we're just going to create new things. I'm like, for what? For where? We don't know yet, but we're going to do it. And I'm like, because they're all creative and they're literally not even on the same continent. So it's a way that he's thinking out of the box to do something with people he's never even actually met, and connecting people through these calls and stuff to that they wouldn't have had that opportunity to work with otherwise. So who knows what will come of it, but I think it's good to try to be aggressively looking forward.
Yeah, I think it's the people that are going to succeed through this time are the ones that are going to get creative about creating new ways to connect, creating new ideas, because other than that, you're just standing still. Perhaps some of the athletes too, like they have to create perhaps certain milestones, like maybe create certain tournaments with themselves or certain things, just make things up to start getting ready to prepare for it. If that's what it takes for you to get ready and get motivated, then do it.
Well, and I think as an athlete, some sports you're literally head to head against people, but still you are only as good as you can be. So your goal is to beat yourself all the time anyway. I've got to be better than I was yesterday. How do I do that? What can I do? And I think whether in this situation or in regular life situation, I'm not sure what that is anymore, but you got to push yourself. Everybody's pushing themselves, but those that are doing something extra, they're the ones that are going to do it. And know why you're doing it. Why do you want to do this? Are you pleasing someone else? Because hard to be motivated if you're trying to please your parents, if you're trying to please the coach, you've got to make it really for you if you want the best results. And like, even when I was a kid, I took ballet classes and I thought, well, first of all, the music drove me nuts. The teacher, the stuff she picked was awful. And I was so tired of her correcting me and telling me how I wasn't very good at anything. I couldn't point my feet because they were always stuck in a skate for so long. Like pointing was so hard.
Yeah.
That's why I did tap too. Like I couldn't move my ankles. They were super slow. So I was like, I'm gonna get her to stop telling me how bad I am and start telling me I'm doing a good job. Right. Because I'm gonna focus and make it happen and get better and work hard and practice. The girls at the ballet school, they do this thing every year where they try and get donations, and they become the choreographers and they choreograph their peers, which is amazing because that's not easy to do when you're a teenager. Right. And have them listen to you and respect you, but they really do a wonderful job. The good thing about it is they can perform, but their speaking ability beforehand, this is what I'm doing and why. And they're like, we're not good at speaking. And I said, you haven't practiced that. You haven't trained for it. You are trained to dance. You stand there and you perform like you're a professional dancer. You look amazing. And yet you stand there like, can't stop moving and can't stop, and you're talking, your head, and you look like you went from, a 10-year-old to a 25-year-old just like that. That's weird. And I was like, it's not that you can't do it. You haven't practiced. So
right, and it goes back to what you said about being willing to fail, right?
And prepare yourself too. Like, hey, if I wasn't that good, maybe if I practice, I will get better.
So it sounds like, it sounds like some things have changed, like access to knowledge, science, but like hard work, putting yourself out there, being willing to fail. Like those things have stayed the same. And
Yeah.
parents and coaches just need to be able to foster that better, right? And just like go out, being able to encourage students or your kids, like, look, you're gonna fail, but it's how you rebound, it's how you use that. How did you deal with nerves when you were out there? And were you
Comedy.
what?
Comedy.
Comedy?
Yeah,
How?
so I always, before I competed, I used to listen to, if I'm putting on the makeup or something, I listen to television shows that were like half hour stupid, you know, they in the background, they're laughing for you. So, you know, oh, now it's cute.
Yeah.
And so they're funny. And I also used to I had a CDs that had these prank callers from New York City, and they
Oh.
would call these houses. It was hysterical. So I'm out laughing, and all I can remember at the Olympics, like reporters asking my coaches, what is she listening to? Why is she laughing? And my coach was like, I have no idea. So that's the difference. Coaches now are more involved, and they know too. They didn't know what I was doing, and they'd listen. And I just found that it kept me light and fun, where if I'm listening to music, it's like intense and
Yeah.
it's can be relaxing, but it is then, now am I too relaxed? Now am I too happy? Am I too pumped up? Like what's right? So I feel like the comedy was always the way to go. And so he would listen and he'd start crying. He's like, this is hysterical. I'm like, I know. So I feel like you have to concentrate in the moment of the event so hard that I would prepare and get ready and go through my routine in my head and walk it out on the floor and whatever. And then like for a few minutes be like, all right, whatever. And my coach is like, they're calling your name. I'm like, yeah, I got a look, I just ripped this. And she's like, go, they're calling you. And I was like, oh. So like almost like relax and release it for a minute, because once it starts, you have to just zone in, right? So you need that little like,
I'm surprised I didn't know this about you, actually, Nancy, after all the time we've spent together. Because that's kind of, I don't think I've spoken to any athlete that listens to comedy or that has that routine. I feel like it's so popular now.
No, but it's music, right?
Yeah, everyone's like music and like everyone's a different genre, right? Some are like serious, like, but everything is just like this, which is great. You have to find out what works for you, right? I think that's the overarching theme, right? Like you have to figure out what works.
Yeah.
And for you, it was comedy, and that's awesome. I mean,
but like the day before, I would love to watch things like that were inspiring. Like I can remember one time I watched White Nights, and I would watch Borshnikov dancing and Gregory Hines, and then I went and competed, and it was great because I felt like it just makes you feel inspired to do something great. So I always, but right before, you know, need to be silly and
well, everyone has a different routine, and so it's like back to preparation, right? You have to figure out what's best for you. And has the rest? I'm curious if you've seen like the recipe for success change at all from like when you were growing up to kids nowadays. Like obviously different times, but like have you seen any change?
Knowledge. I think the knowledge that they have now. I knew my mom always thought sleep and eat well. It's really important to stay physically fit, mentally fit. You sleep better, you perform better, all that. But I think not just that, we know it really does and why, and things are, sugar's inflammatory and all these different things. And like you ache and you hurt and you keep cracking every bone in your body. Like maybe cut out this, and this. Like, let me show you. I like, they taught them in 4th grade, you know, in like a soda bottle will say how many grams of sugar there is in a bottle. Divided by 4, that's how many teaspoons you're having. So like you just put in the teaspoons in a glass and you're like, would you ever really like throw water in and drink that? Like, ugh. It's just having the visual sometimes can change your mind about some of the things you're eating, which can help maintain your body. And that was tough. When I was competing, I competed for 17 years before I knew how to compete. I had a sports psychologist for a year, and every other day I actually practiced competing. And as a kid who grew up like not being able to afford what I was doing, my family struggled for it. It was so hard mentally because I would pretend and pick out of a hat. I was like, oh, I'm going to skate fifth today. So, I mean, this is during practice, and I would do my 6-minute warm up and then get off and go in the lobby. And like, what do you do during that time when you're waiting for those 4 other in front of you to do, to do their thing and compete? And then you're waiting, and now do you get cold? Do you keep warming up? You might be too tired. And so I literally practiced every other day doing that. But at the same time, like, someone else is skating every day and practicing their routines and practicing their jumps while I'm standing in the lobby.
Uh-huh.
But it made me know how to compete. And I was ready to know if I went first, I knew what to do. If I was second or third, or even sometimes you have to wait 45 minutes, I knew what exercises, how much I needed to do to be ready, but not overly ready, but not under ready, and go, how could I be overly ready? I can do this program twice in a row at this point. So why would I be in my head saying, oh, I can't, that doesn't. Right. So it taught me how to compete and be prepared. But it was a strange struggle to be like, I'm paying to be on the ice and I'm standing in the lobby.
Yeah. I think it's really impactful when you say, like, someone that got to your caliber, like, it took you so long to learn certain things. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for people to know, whether it's in sports or in business, that it's a total process. Like, your learning will never stop. Like, yeah, you're competing in sports, may not, but like, I'm shocked when I have like ex-legends of the tennis game coming up and asking me, oh, how do you grip your backhand there? Like, how do you do that? I'm like, dude, you were number like 1 in the world and you're asking me like how to do that. It's really telling, right? Like, I think always the greats are always looking to get better, even when they stop competing. And to your point, like, it took you 17 years to learn how to compete and what was right for you. I think that's encouraging for everyone, right? To just be like, hey, I don't have to be the best tomorrow. Like, I have to just be better, like, focus on the day, right? How can I be better today?
And like what you're saying about they're asking later, because once you stop, you're not training the way you did. So you're like, wait a minute, my body's not working the way it was normally working. And that works for you. I want to know what you're doing because it's working. And maybe that will work for me. And as you said, because we keep changing too. So yeah. So what worked yesterday isn't necessarily what's going to work tomorrow,
Exactly. Well, Nancy, I want to thank you. This has been awesome. I thank you very much. I think everyone's going to find this really insightful, and hope they get stuff out of it. I'm sure. I know I did. So maybe we can have you back at some point soon. Maybe we can do it live next time, like in person.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That'd be better.